Welcome, everyone, to Rules of the Arena, episode 32. This episode is made possible by Blind Ninja Studios, where you can find this show and others such as Department of Defense, Homebrew Bound, Soundwave, and Legends of Lothos. We are also brought to you by Duck Hill Workshop, a small-scale sawmill and builders of fine furniture. You can find them on Facebook, Instagram, and Duck Hill Workshop. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel where you can watch the episodes of Workshop Wednesday and In the Shop with Ben and Glenn. This week, we have Tom from Natures Nectar Online.com back for part 2. Welcome back, Tom. Thanks for coming down.
Oh, thanks for having me.
But some big news. You're no longer just Natures Nectar Online.com. You now have a storefront.
We are now officially Natures Nectar and naturesnectaronline.com.
So just in case anybody's new listeners, they didn't listen to that. So if you wanted to listen to the first episode with Tom, it's episode 11. You can go check that out. Anyone that hasn't listened to that yet, just introduce yourself a little bit.
Tom Minzer. We just purchased Nature's Nectar, which is a longtime company. It's been in business for a little over 23 years. We purchased it from the previous owner who finally decided to retire for the third time in his life. And, so we took that over almost 8 months ago now.
So how are things been going at the store so far?
Oh, really good. Everybody... Jim was a little bit out there in Stillwater, kind of rural area, so we are now located in Oakdale, which everybody loves the location, minus, of course, right after we rent the place, they decide to build a bridge over Hadley. So, and Google, for some reason, does not want to recognize the little frontage road that they built that leads right to our shop, so it takes people on a little corn hike all over the place.
Where in Oakdale are you guys?
We are directly on the opposite side of Fleet Farm on 36.
Oh, okay.
Yep. There's a little strip mall there. There's a pool and patio place and an appliance store, and we're at the very end in the Healthy for Life building.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So now running a store, I mean, the sign says you close at 5 o'clock, for example. How much more or less work are you doing now that you've taken on the storefront and the online side of things?
Well, actually, the storefront is the majority of the business. It's not atypical as far as other storefronts where you can just go in, buy something, and get out and know what you're doing. The deal with our shop is it's very hands-on, and you can go to Fleet Farm, for instance, and buy beekeeping equipment. And if you ask any of the employees at Fleet Farm how to use any of it, you'll get a blank stare pretty much like a cow in a cornfield type of deal. So
yeah, the typical big box store 15-minute training video.
Correct. Yeah, zero training on beekeeping.
Yeah, here's how to sell the product, but you don't need to know.
We'll point you to the aisle, and that's about as information as you're going to get.
Now, with the storefront, are you still taking people for whether it's a time or a distance constraint? Can they still go through Nature's Nectar Online?
Yep. We have a full online shopping cart. You can basically buy everything. We're a Man Lake dealer, and there's one dealer per state. But we everything in Man Lake's catalog, we're cheaper than all their prices, including the little deals and stuff that Man Lake has. And obviously, most people wouldn't drive up to Man Lake because it's in Hackensack, which is just a shade under 4.5 hours from the Twin
None
City.
of those sound like real places. I'm not going to lie.
Northern Minnesota,
A.
Now, are you still working at local farmer markets? And you're just saying you're over at the Washington County State Fair. County Fair, excuse me.
Yeah, we'll be. We were at the Ramsey County Fair, the Washington County Fair. We're at several farmers markets during the week, and we also do information at the State Fair. So,
have you expanded what you're selling at the fairs now? Last time you were here, you're selling honey, your different types of honey that you can get here, and maple syrup. Have you expanded to maybe people if they want to come grab some equipment, or do they need to go to the store for that?
No, normally we're just kind of at the fairs. It's more along the lines of getting the brand out there. The honey is just kind of a little bonus sideline for a little extra cash in the pocket type deal. But for the most part, we're out there trying to get new people into beekeeping, basically, is the deal. So we hand out business cards and brochures and information and, tell them this is how you want to, this is the store you need to go to start beekeeping if you wanted to do something like that.
And last time you were on, we talked a lot off air that you were in the process of taking over the business. Was opening a storefront part of the plan, or was that already in place for you, so it was just a lock and key for you?
No, actually, we were going to run the business out of our house, which we had moved from North Branch down to Stillwater for that main purpose, and we kind of run into a little issue with the. We'll just say we run into a little issue with the town board, so we'll just leave it at that.
But with the oh my god,
Proliferation.
thank you,
Beer.
of online sales today, why did you decide to go with the storefront, and why not just keep it strictly online?
It goes basically back to information. So the reason Jim's business, Nature's Nectar previous, was so lucrative is the fact that you could go into the store, buy the equipment, and then figure out how to use it right there in the store. And just like any kind of agricultural business or animal related business, you could ask 3 beekeepers 3 questions and get 10 different answers. So, and we follow the U of M, so we supply the U of M with all their equipment and everything, and we kind of a relationship there. So, and they have plenty of training courses and classes that we do with the U. So we kind of drift off of them a little bit, and then basically people come into the store, get all the information that they need, because it's something that every day you do beekeeping, there's a new question, a new, why did they do this and why are they doing this? And it's just a lot of questions and they need answers, and you can't get that online or just, big box store.
Would you say that's a big driver for customers like myself? I live almost 2 hours away from here. To drive to a store that's restricted by hours, so I can kind of plan my trip around that versus where I can just go, Amazon or whatever the case may be.
Correct.
And just order it there.
Yep. I mean, we have customers that come from, an hour drive is nothing, because they need more of the information than the equipment.
And one of the big, sorry.
No, oh, well, I was going to say, kind of building off of that, do you see a lot of people who they're like, okay, you got all this stuff online, and I thought I knew how to use it, but actually, how do I come into the store?
Oh, constant. We actually have people that will pull into the shop, and I'll go out and follow them out to their car. They'll pop their trunk, and here's everything from Fleet Farm, and they have no idea what to use it with. Either they had gotten it as a present, or they, thought that they needed it and they didn't. So they would come to our store and try to figure it out, and then turn all around and go return it at Fleet Farm. So.
And, in that case, like for me, I went online because, again, I live in BFE. Is there any way, can I bring my equipment to the store like, hey, can you help me figure this out? Or is this really bad and I should really just upgrade to what you're using?
It's not so much bad versus good products. It's more along the lines of, like you said, how to use it type of deal. So we kind of structured the business so the store would be open a certain amount of time, but then we would also be able to bring equipment back to the house and you could pick it up there type of deal. And instead of having a hardline phone at the shop, we decided to just go with a cell phone and basically pass that out to everybody and said, hey, you're in the middle of your bee yard at, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're not going to be able to make it to the shop and you have major questions, just give us a call, kind of, hands-on.
Do you guys do like a consulting service then, or is it just call in if you have a question? And
just call in and have a question, call in and get your questions answered, and then, hopefully that knowledge will,
but they'll build like a brand loyalty.
Basically, come back, why go to Fleet Farm when this guy told me, Nature's Nectar told us exactly what we needed to do when we needed to do it, and I got the help there. So, and to top it off, we're cheaper than Fleet Farm anyway. So,
what about ordering queens? I mean, this spring you had what looked like pallets of different hives, I guess.
Well, actually, that was probably packaged bees. So, in order to start beekeeping, you have to start with bees, and bees come with a queen. And yeah, we do get pallets. We're pretty much, I would say, the #1 distributor of packaged bees in the Midwest. And we're going to actually expand that next year too, because we ended up selling out. I mean, we start taking packaged bee orders in January, which another tough part of the business is nobody's thinking about raising bees in January. They're thinking about an island somewhere or how to stay warm. They're not thinking about, let's go out into the bee yard and look at bees flying around.
Well, it's like painting, which you also do, and that's how we originally met.
Correct.
Yep. People middle of summer, I want to have my house painted this summer. Well, you should have called back over the winter when it's cold out.
Exactly. So we take orders in January, and we usually sell out by February, March.
What about, again, people that live at a decent distance, I mean, can they have the queens direct shipped to them, or the bee package shipped to them, or do they still need to come down to the storefront in order or get it from you?
Yeah, it's best to. So here's another dig on Fleet Farm and a couple other stores. A lot of these stores are offering packaged bees to be shipped, and right in their statement or their whatever you want to call it, the fine print, let's just say, they say in the bottom of a package, 3 inches of dead bees is considered acceptable.
Whoa.
When you get your bees shipped to you.
What
Seems
kind
like
of
a lot of
dimensions?
dead bees.
So a typical package weighs about 3 pounds. That's what we sell. We sell 3. We used to sell 2-pound packages, and now we just moved to 1 straight.
Is that the gross weight, or is that you get
That's the
3
weight
pounds of bees?
of actual bees, and other companies, that ship it are saying the same thing. We've kind of figured that an inch of dead bees is close to a pound worth of dead bees. So you're paying for a
Wow.
3-pound package and
You need
getting
3
a 2
pounds
pound.
of dead bee.
Yeah, and getting a 2-pound with a pound of dead bees. Not to mention this, people you got to treat it as these are animals. This is an insect. So shipping it, sitting at the post office, stress. And it's basically like I tell people, would you ship a dozen puppies in a box to somebody? Would you ship that? Probably not. So just kind of treat it the same way. I mean, packaged bees, they're right around $135. So it's not something you want to pay $135 for and have it die at the post office, because now what? Now now you're behind the 8 ball and trying to find
Yeah.
another package of bees, and it's hard.
In your shipping, you're getting bees out of California.
Correct. Yep.
So, I mean, how stressful is that for the bees to travel? I mean, to drive out to California is a 2-day trip easy. I mean, one of my hobbies is reptiles, and you always
Easy?
do.
That's 2 12-hour days in the car, isn't it?
That's not that bad.
Okay.
I've road tripped to Salem, Massachusetts, and Tennessee, and New Orleans before. It's like, well, whatever now. And then with my full-time job, it's like, 2 hours
Yeah.
now. That's a quick jog.
Right.
But like I'm a reptile enthusiast. It's always overnight shipping, and of course there's certain companies, and you can go on forums and like, oh, these guys are really good at shipping. These ones are not so good because my animal came back dead. How much stress are you putting on the bees for that shipping?
Well, that's the good thing about our supplier. We deal with Oliveira's honeybees in California. He's pretty much the biggest name in packaged bees and queens. He even has a queen rearing facility on the Hawaiian Islands. So he's definitely not small time, and he figures it out. And the shipping of the bees, it's a special shipping container built just for shipping bees. And the bees actually come with a big, it's a feeder can, so they have feed, and the trailer is actually it's kind of high tech. It's hooked up via satellite, and sensors are placed in between all the pallets, and they can tell the exact temperature between each pallet, and the driver can then open or shut different vents to make these bees as comfortable as possible, because obviously, they're shipping close to 1,400 to 1,900 packages of bees. That has a hefty price tag of basically, a couple $100,000. They don't want them to die, because I'm not responsible for them until they are unloaded at my facility.
So, and with me, I worked in shipping and receiving for way too long. Bad shipment of product to me, where it's not animals. It used to be clothes, or it used to be paint. If I see something wrong, I can refuse shipment. Can you do that as a a storefront?
I wouldn't call it refusing shipment, because obviously bees is basically Nature's Nectar's bread and butter, and you kind of don't want to bite that hand that feeds you type of deal. So, but in the 23 years now plus me 1, so 24 years of shipping bees, we've never had a major issue. The only time Oliveira's had an issue is the truck had actually crashed, and obviously it had nothing to do with me. And basically the next day he had another truck full of bees getting shipped, so it was basically a 1-day delay.
Sure.
So
Now, aside from ordering a queen, coming from California or Hawaii, it's a little bit different climate than here. I mean, wintering's probably a little bit different down there. Why would I want to go through you if they're coming from the West Coast versus if I just walk down and grab, ordered a bee from a local dealer who they're what, a year and a half old when your customers get them, give or take.
The queen?
Yes,
No, the
Or a
queen's
year.
brand spanking new.
spanking new.
Yep.
So why not get a queen up here that might be, I guess, adjusted to the climate, for lack of better words?
Because bees, first of all, they don't have to adjust to any climate. They're basically an insect, so they go by temperature. And the main reason is everybody gets their packaged bees from some part down south, whether it be Florida, Missouri, wherever they're getting it from. It comes down south because we aren't able to start bees here in Minnesota or Wisconsin, northern states. We can't start bees here, so you wouldn't be able to get a package. You wouldn't be able to get the volume of packaged bees that you would need.
So if I go online, I Google local bee supplier,
Yep.
and they say 100% Wisconsin or Minnesota local, they're not truly local.
Well, if they're selling the bees, yeah, and you actually have to have credentials with your bees saying that they came from California and they get inspected and the whole works. So
Kind of like the honey, like we talked about. If the first ingredient on the back of your honey bottle is high fructose corn syrup,
yeah,
it's not
honey.
pure honey.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah, there's a little bit of technicality that goes across, goes along with the shipment of the bees, but if you're getting a packaged bee in a northern state, it's definitely from a southern state. Now, with that being said, you can definitely get bees from, let's say, Wisconsin, Minnesota, but you're not going to get them. We get them delivered in April. You wouldn't get those bees until late June, basically, is when you're able to do a divide.
So aside from just ordering a queen, I mean, what else would I need to purchase in order to get a hive up and running?
So at the store, or basically anywhere, you need to start with your equipment, your boxes, we call them. So there's deeps and mediums, and there's a whole bunch of technical jargon that we're not going to get into. But it's basically you get a hive setup, which would consist of different components. Then you would need the equipment that you would need to go into that hive, and then you would need protective clothing.
So, well, you're talking about the deep and medium. I mean, is there an advantage to any of those? For, say, this is my first year, I just ordered bees, and I'm now looking at my brand new hive. What would I want to order?
Yeah, and it's kind of an industry kind of type of standard, I guess you could say. Deep boxes or brood boxes are standard. So typically you either follow the U of M. It basically preaches a 3 deep method. So it's 3 deep or taller boxes, and that's where your bees would basically breed and lay eggs and make the hive bigger, put it that way. You can go with a 2 deep system, which is 2 boxes, and a lot of people do that as well. So it just depends on who you want to follow and how you want to follow it.
Now, and like you said, you really want to start thinking about ordering bees wintertime, January, when nobody's thinking about it. So it's now August in 2019. Should I be contacting you in January, or can I do it beforehand?
No, you usually start taking orders around January 1st through the 10th, somewhere around there is when we would basically either throw it up online saying, hey, we are now taking package B orders. You can either, last year we were going to try to do the whole online ordering thing, and that didn't go as planned. So this year we are going to have it where you can just basically order your package Bs online, or you can mail in a check or credit card type of thing like that.
Sure. And you said you sell out pretty quick. I mean, do you say we're going to sell X number of packages?
Correct. Yep. So you can only get a certain amount on a truckload, and once you pass that truckload point, you have to you can't get like a third of a truckload. I mean, you could, but then the price would outweigh you'd have to. I mean, just shipping one full truckload is about $16,000. So
it sounds like there's a lot of tech on that truck.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's a one-way trip. So, to get a quarter of a truck, probably, the price of the package of bees would be too high, and nobody would want to pay that.
And then if I'm looking at doing this winter, do states or local cities, counties, do they regulate? Well, if you're within this grid of the town, you can't have a bee. You can't have hives. Do people have to worry about regulations like that?
For the most part, most counties allow beekeeping. Like, for instance, Minneapolis, you can keep hives in middle of Minneapolis with 0 yards, zero. I mean, people keep them on decks of apartments and stuff like that. And you'd be surprised. Definitely check We, and when I say we, the U of M and us, we are kind of going after certain areas, like Lionel Lakes, for instance, doesn't allow beekeeping in the city. And if anybody's ever been to Lionel Lakes, it's not very populated.
Yeah, why?
It's just board members and politics. It goes back down to politics,
I don't understand the politics against bees. That doesn't make any sense
Especially,
to me.
I mean, I follow a few science pages, and it sounds, the decline of bee populations worldwide. You'd think cities would
dramatic,
hey, let's get it bumped
You
back
figure
up.
if Cheerios can acknowledge something's going on,
right. And again, it probably comes down to liability, or and the sad thing is it might even come down to the fact that somebody on the board doesn't like bees or is allergic to bees, and that fear populates throughout the whole entire board, and next thing you know, they all vote that no bees in our city.
okay.
Do you typically see their older laws, or are they pretty current?
No,
or
definitely.
how often?
Definitely older. Yeah.
Does it come up a lot? Do you find?
Yeah, because actually, like I said, there's a lot of activists out there that are trying to fight this whole, why can't we have bees here? And there's kind of some loose laws. It's the type of the thing where, well,
like in the state of Wisconsin, you're not allowed to wear a duck on the right side of the road on your head during certain months.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or people just say, hey, I'll just keep bees until I get caught type of deal.
Now, once I do, I have my bees ordered and I have my equipment. I mean, how much of a time and commitment am I looking at to keep these guys up and running throughout? Summer's pretty easy around here, but come winter time especially.
Well, actually, winter is probably your most relaxed time when it comes to beekeeping. I tell everybody that wants to get into the hobby, it's not so much about how much time you put in, it's about the timing you put in. So you may not have to go into your hive for a couple weeks, or let's say a whole month, for example, but you might have to go in on a specific day or limit yourself to a couple days during that month that you will have to do something, whether it be treatments or moving boxes or something basically to help the bees along.
The big thing is having your hive swarm and
Yep.
fly off in somewhere else. From the day I get my queen to how long out can I expect before I need to go in there and start looking for I can't remember the
Eggs.
the egg for the next queen.
Yep.
Should I go start preparing to search for it at least?
Yep. You're going to want to do that almost immediately. You definitely want to give her a couple days just to get used to where she's at. And usually you typically start seeing eggs after the first 3 days of install. And that's something you do want to check, because if for some reason you may have a bad queen or something, something happened to her, when you installed her, you need to find that out right away so you can get a replacement.
So in that first few days, it's really just leave it alone, let them adjust.
Yep. And she won't even start laying right away, just because of the transport. And when you get a package of bees, it's a square plastic box, and it has a feeder can in it, 3 pounds of bees, and then there's a queen that's in a separate little wooden cage that's attached. And so in that transport is the time that the bees got used to that queen, because that's not their original queen. And
that's all pheromones?
correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So basically, if you threw a brand new queen into a hive, the hive would instantly kill that queen, because that is not their queen. But bees can kind of realize, hey, I'm queenless right now, and this is the only option I have. So after a certain time period, they'll get used to that queen. And that's kind of usually why we like getting them from California, because they have plenty of time on the road up to get used to that queen. Then you can go ahead and put her in the hive.
So what about the worker bees during that adjustment period? Should you leave them alone as well, or just pull the plug and let them start to do their thing?
So basically, when you install a package of bees, you put the queen, and we there's a couple different ways to release a queen, and we want you guys to be successful. So it's called the Marshmallow Method. Basically, it's like I said, you have that little queen cage, it's a little wooden cage with a screen on it, and there's a cork in one end. We tell you to take the cork out, replace it with a marshmallow, and then hang that queen cage in the frames with all the bees in there. And over a certain time period, a couple hours, they'll chew through the marshmallow, which will then allow the queen to be released. And then she'll crawl out and start doing her thing.
So it's just like a slow release, so they're both getting used to each other.
Correct. It's
Okay.
exactly what it's called. It's actually called a slow release. Good job.
I'm smart.
Now buy a package of bees from Nature's Nectar.
You guys should hear my my movie pitches.
If you'd like to hear a disaster movie pitch, go to Department of Defense episode
287.
287. That was
It's quite interesting.
that was time that I'm never gonna get back in my life.
You helped.
Last time you were on the show, we talked a lot about hive retention, and you mentioned, a few years ago, it's pretty good if you can keep 30-50% of your hive over your first year, largely due to the mite issue that came over from Asia. Has the industry been doing anything to help with improvements with the mites and treatments and such for that?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's coming a long ways, even just in the year that we had talked. Different treatments are coming out, and the U of M just built a very large bee lab, so specifically to study honeybees, and that is helping out tremendously, and that's why we love working with the U of M.
What kind of treatments are available around here, at least?
Basically, there's synthetic brands, and then there's more of a natural or organic treatments, and most of the treatments are an acid of some sort. Is
there a big end result? If I'm going with the organic or the synthetic, is it going to affect my nectar or my honey?
Yeah, definitely. Certain organic treatments you're not allowed to use when you have your honey supers on for collecting honey, and all of the organic treatments are. I don't know if I should be really saying organic treatments, but it's definitely a safe treatment that you are allowed to use with your bees, with your honey super on, that doesn't affect humans, basically.
What about affecting the bees themselves? Should I worry about treatment 1 versus 2 or 3?
Oh, definitely. Yep. All the treatments are temperature sensitive, so you really have to pay attention to that. And the directions are written right on the package for a reason, and please follow them, because we get beekeepers in all the time. I put 4 strips on when they should have put 2, and all my bees are dead or my queen's dead. It's just, I don't want to say common sense, but it's pretty much follow the directions that are given to you.
Read
and
the labels.
Yeah, read the labels. Yeah.
What about other pests? Bears are a big one. Not so much in the city, but you get in the rural spots, especially where I live. There's a lot of bears. You get possums, raccoons.
I hear they're
such
really
like that.
bad in the 100-acre woods, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. Actually, this year has been just a boom year for bear attacks on hives.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, more than ever. It's and I don't know if the bear population's obviously coming back. There's people that come into the store that have been beekeeping for 20 years in the same exact spot, never seen a bear, and they're seeing bears this year. So, yeah, that's always something you want to worry, because it's so hit or miss with a bear. And once it's hit, it's not something that it's easily recoverable. Bears do severe damage to beehives.
Well, and is it an issue where you have to worry about the bear coming back, or the equipment's destroyed, or a little bit of both, or?
Oh, both for sure. Bears,
okay.
Once they find the spot, they will be back nightly, every single night, until they get exactly everything that they want. And the bears aren't really bears.
Yeah.
I've been here too long.
No, those are the ones with the antlers. So you gotta watch out for
right,
those.
right. They're actually looking for the larvae, and not so much the honey. The honey is just a bonus. The larvae is what they want.
They want that protein?
Protein, yep. That's what they're looking for.
For the smaller pests, aside from a 22, what kind of steps could I take to keep them away?
Yeah, as far as smaller pests, there's really not. Skunks are probably the next closest thing, and they pretty much scratch at the hive and eat the bees as they come out. So the damage, even though they're eating bees, it's very minimal to the hive. But again, electric fence will take care of pretty much all of your pests, large animal fur bearer pests.
And of course, the big thing here in the United States, there's still pesticides being used where other countries, especially in Europe, have outlawed. Should I worry about my neighbors using different pesticides, or you see the different lawn treatments out there to kill the weeds?
Yeah,
can that affect my bees directly, and can it affect the nectar?
Not so much the nectar, because basically they're killing the weeds that the bees would feed on, so they wouldn't even have a chance to feed. But it's more along the lines of drift and that pesticide getting back into the honeycomb, the actual wax of the bees. Neonicotinoids is the main thing with that. So it's definitely not good, and a lot of times it's really not even necessary. I went to a spray-free yard, and my yard looks great, and I have clover and weeds. All I mean, obviously Creeping Charlie and stuff are a little bit of an annoyance, but it's something that you can deal with without a pesticide or without any kind of a weed killer. Plus, look at all the lawsuits with Roundup and everything. It's like I don't even understand why people would want to even mess with it anymore.
Right.
But
Well, I still get my flyer every spring.
Is there so say I want to start keeping bees, but my neighbors are doing a bunch of stuff to their yard to get like the perfect yard, Is there a good easy resource I can give them, or
as far as that goes,
like as far as education?
Yeah, just talking to your neighbors would be the best thing. And again, you have to figure that a bee, if there's nothing there for them to get, they pretty much wouldn't spend too much time in the neighbor's yard, so they'll just basically fly somewhere else.
So if like I have a neighbor who wants to plant something to help bees, is there is there a resource where you can be like, these are the plants that are good, these are the ones that are bad? Or
yeah, again, revert back to the U of M. They got a bunch of good tips on their website as far as pollinator plants.
Okay.
Minnesota, there's a couple Minnesota Pollinator Club. There's clubs that you can join and stuff like that. The Master Gardeners is another good one as far as planting. And it's funny, too, because the number one thing that bees get nectar from, it's not necessarily plants. It's more along the line of weeds. The pest things is what, clover and purple loosestrife and bird's foot trefoil, all these things that people,
are trying to keep out.
To keep out are the number one nectar source,
So, like, I was looking at dandelions, after you were on August of last year, and, this spring, I was looking at all the dandelions in the yard, and I'm like, I should mow the grass, but I kind of want to give the bees, an opportunity to come by real quick. And
for whatever reason this year, dandelion was just a boom. I mean, me personally, I was filling up a couple supers worth of dandelion honey, which is a really good thing, especially early, because dandelions is one of the first things that come out. You have your fruit trees as pretty much your first bloom, and then dandelions is next. And yeah, it was just
and it seemed like a really early bloom. I have a crabapple tree right in front of my living room, and that bloomed way earlier than I've seen, in the past, crab apples or other apple trees for that matter.
Well, it just had, I think it was more along the lines of we had such a crappy spring that it felt early because winter was later.
So long.
Yeah. So that kind of triggered everybody to think. And actually, everything was late this year as far as bloom goes.
Huh.
So when you're looking at, like fruit, your fruit blossom honey and then your dandelion honey, how do you determine what... I feel like we talked about this last time, but I can't quite remember. Like, how do you be like, okay, so this is dandelion honey, and this is, or is it just what's blooming at that time?
It's basically what's blooming, and
Okay.
there's nothing else for them to get, so that's what they're getting,
Okay.
type of deal. Yep.
Well, from first bloom to after the first bloom, how soon can I go in and start collecting some nectar for myself? And how much should I leave? Like, we talked about how much to leave there over the winter. How much should I leave during this, during the blooming season, the summer season, while they're still collecting?
Yeah, typically when you it's called extracting, and when you want to extract honey, you definitely want to wait for the bees to cap it, because if you collect it too early, it can ferment, and now you have mead. So maybe that might not be
I don't
such
see a problem here.
It might not be a bad thing at all. But typically your season, like people are starting to extract right now. Kind of threw some things out on the blog and the website, that you might want to wait a little bit longer because of the fact that we were so late this year to start extracting honey, because we still have, right now on the way over here to Wisconsin, I noticed there was still a ton of white sweet clover, which is one of the big nectar recoveries for a bee is white sweet clover. There was still a ton of that blooming, and all the things that I listed before, and we still have goldenrod, which is pretty much the cutoff. That's about the end thing. Once you see goldenrod done, is typically when you could start to harvest.
For equipment, I've started to see good old Facebook target ads. The Hive, where you kind of like move a lever and it moves the combs.
The flow hive.
Yes, is that a good thing, or is that just
if you lived
more
in
gimmicky?
Australia? It definitely has its purpose. It's extremely expensive. I mean, for the price that you can get for a flow hive, you could pretty much buy 2 other complete colonies with equipment and gear and everything for the price of one flow hive. And the flow hive is only for extracting of honey. That's the only purpose it's for. So you still have to deal with Minnesota winter, Wisconsin winter. You still have to deal with all that. and the flow hive doesn't coexist with
For anyone listening, if you haven't seen it, it's imagine your typical honeycomb, and it's this plastic, I
Yep,
guess.
it's all plastic. Yeah.
And when you pull the lever, it just kind of sets it a little bit offset, and that honey then flows down for
Kinda
you.
serpentines down the honeycomb and then goes into a tube, and the tube supposedly goes out, and then you sit there and fill up jars.
So
And
is it like just harvesting it without cutting the caps off?
it's basically harvesting without entering the hive. And,
Okay.
and like I said, in theory, it's all well and good, but you got to figure Minnesota, Wisconsin, North and South Dakota, we're the major honey producers in the world as far as honey production. I mean, it's huge. California's right up there too, but in Australia, they don't have the nectar flow season like we have. So, like one person brought up, when you sit there and open a tap and all this honey flows out, well, when you're collecting your honey, the bees want the honey as well. So you're just promoting, it's called robbing, and basically hives would go into a weaker hive and steal the honey out of that. Well, now you're openly extracting honey right behind a hive, and most people have more than one hive. So you're just promoting all the bees to fly right around and start robbing out this. I just see it as being kind of a nightmare. And I don't know if I would ever, would I ever do one? Maybe just to test it. But other than that, I highly don't recommend
So
it.
when you expose honey near a hive, it promotes other hives to come in and take that honey.
Oh, bees in general.
So so the traditional method of pulling it out, slicing the caps off and draining the comb is the best way to do it because you're doing it away from the hive.
Typically, yeah, you
Okay.
have some kind of a facility in your garage, house, whatever, you wouldn't typically do that right in the bee yard. In fact, when we extract honey, we pull a super off, and however you remove the bees from the super, there's a bunch of different ways to remove
So
the
what
bees.
is a super?
Honey super or a medium, it's basically a skinnier version of the deeper box. And the reason it's skinny is because you stack so many on top, and it's hard to, if you fill up if a deep was completely full of honey, you're talking close to 100 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So, and a super can be anywhere between 40 and 60 pounds. So it's a lot easier on the beekeeper. So when you remove those bees and you pull a super off, you literally have to put it on a dolly and cover it right away because the bees are just right back in there again. So imagine that, where you have no way to cover this flow hive and you just have open honey dripping out the back of a hive. I just kind of see it as maybe not just, we'll just say it's not right for northern climates. Let's put it that way.
Ease for the beginning beekeeper, but shitty for the hive.
I wouldn't.
Maybe.
Yeah,
but-
not shitty for the hive because it's still the same collection, and you're probably disrupting the bees
Well,
less.
but you're bringing in all these thieves who.
Correct. Yeah, you could promote something that you definitely do not want
Yep.
anywhere near your hives. Correct. Yep.
What about, so if if I had the wood box hives, traditional, I got to cut the caps. Can I just take my kitchen knife, or is there
Oh yeah, I
a
mean,
specific
you
tool
can
for
people
that?
do it on the cheap. I mean, there's tons of different ways to do everything in the world, pretty much. And there's tools and there's gimmicks and there's everything out there. That's why when people come into our store, I just tell people what I do. I'm not saying that's what you have to do. This is just what I do, and this is kind of the ease of it. And I kind of explain to people, hey, for instance, one person has one hive. He only needs a certain amount of equipment. Well, the next person over has 4 hives. Well, obviously the equipment that the one person with one hive has is useless to the guy that has 4.
it's going to be 4 times the work.
Exactly. So you kind of grow your equipment as you grow your hobby, pretty much.
So I came to you and I bought my equipment and I got some tips and tools on how I should harvest. But all of a sudden it's Sunday and it's midnight and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta get honey tomorrow, and I kind of forgot a few things. How can people go online and, obviously you have YouTube and Google, how do you tell what's bullshit and this is a legit beekeeper and they know what they're doing? They have a handle on it. It's not just some kid.
Yep.
He started growing bees in May, and now all of a sudden he's a YouTube star in August.
I feel like what Gordon's asking is, where's the Nature's Nectar YouTube tutorial series?
Yes, actually, and it's funny you say that because we just happen to have
just
such
teeing
a
it up
thing.
here.
Yeah. And we're actually in transition of changing the YouTube handle from its previous to Nature's Nectar. So right right now it's under Beefitter, and that's Beefitter, because the former owner was a pipe fitter and a beekeeper, so he just joined the two names. So, and actually his his videos have quite the following. I mean, it's kind of staggering. I mean, YouTube, the whole commercial type thing. I mean, they've offered to pay him and everything. So,
Oh wow.
so hopefully, when we get that changed, the name changed over, we can kind of. I don't care about the money part of it, but it's just what I tell people.
The knowledge on there.
Yeah.
The SEO.
SEO.
Yes.
SEO. Yep. And what I tell people is, if you are in Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, if you're in that northern state and you pull up how to beekeep on YouTube, and the video that comes up, whatever it may be, the first one you click on, if it starts with a guy talking in a southern twang, you need to go to the next video, because whatever they're doing, and that's not a dig on the South, that's just a dig on
And it's a different climate.
totally different. And it is staggering how many people come in here and say, I seen this on YouTube. Why are my bees doing this? Or why are they dying? Or
Well,
why are they
because
doing
it's
this?
January
Yeah,
and
It's cold as fuck out.
Yeah, exactly. And we get so many people that rely on the internet, which used to be a great form of information, and is now almost information overload with too much of the wrong information for what you are trying to accomplish.
And I was listening to another podcast. They have, so every 24 hours, more information is loaded onto the internet prior to what, I can't remember the exact date they said, but like from the first written text discovered to, I want to say, like the 15 or 1600s. More data is put into the internet in 24 hours than 1,000 years worth of
1,000
history.
years. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it, because now it's just so accessible. So everybody throws a video, and whether their video is right or wrong, they're going to post it on there. So, and that's what why I kind of push people. It's not so much stay away from the internet. Basically, stay away from it. Join a beekeeping club. Go to a class that and follow whoever you're learning from. Because again, like I said, there's 3 beekeepers, 1 question, 10 different answers. So you just have to pick one person or one way or however you're doing it, and follow that.
And if I'm doing everything by the book, but I still lose half or my entire hive that first year, I mean, should I beat myself up over it? Or it's like, well, can't predict the weather.
Right. And that's exactly that. I mean, Minnesota is a 52% state, according to studies that were done a couple years ago. So 52% of your hives will make it through the winter. 48% of them will die. So typically, it's always good to have 2 hives, because you have a really good chance of pushing one of those all the way through winter, and you can use that one hive to replace that dead one.
So how does that work then? Should I order a new queen the next year, or can I just take one of the eggs the following summer or spring and put that into the new hive and let the bees do their thing?
Both. Now, again, you're in northern climates, so you're always working against time. Time is your biggest issue with beekeeping.
All of our 3-hour summers that we have up
Right.
here.
We have a very short window, so you can do things the natural way, and some people try it, and then they figure out it's just a lot easier just to go buy a queen and just introduce a new queen with your divide. Now you're done.
So you mentioned, introducing a new queen. They had that whole time in the truck from California to Minnesota. How much time, if I just order a new queen, but I already have a couple hives established, how long should I let them acclimate to one another?
So we'll back up a little bit, because so let's say you get 2 hives, 2019, make it through the winter, and one of them died. Now you still have 1 good hive, and you have a complete dead hive. So when you have a package of bees like that, and we'll just say it's a colony now because it's no longer a package, now you're going to be able to divide or split that hive. And how to do that is you have to have at least 4 frames of cap brood to do a divide. So if you come out of winter and your queen starts laying again, everything gets up to par, and it's a good strong colony, and you have enough brood to do a divide, then you would do a divide, and that's where you would buy or make a new queen for the divide. The old queen can stay with the hive. Now again, you're back into agriculture, where some people say once that queen's made it through the winter, you remove that queen and put a new queen in there and start, because that's the whole agricultural thing of fresh stock and, good breeding and blah, blah, blah.
So, you were saying earlier that, like, for packages, you're done. Like, you do your ordering in January, and you're sold out by, what, February?
March.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I haven't quite made it through the winter yet. I don't, like, when do I know if a hive is going to be dead or not?
That is the $1 million question.
Okay.
Yep.
And so so is it smart to just order new queens in January? And if you don't need them, you don't need them? Or
can I go out to the hive with the stethoscope and listen? If there's no buzzing, they're probably at Schitt's
Definitely.
Creek.
Yeah, it's called knocking. Go up to your hive and give it a knock, and if you hear it goes, well, you know it's alive. Now, the tricky thing is bees tend to really do what they want to do and not what you want them to do. I don't know where they get it from. How the arrogance of some of these bees is just ridiculous. But
so it's like raising a 3-year-old.
Correct.
Constantly.
Yep. Right. And right when you think you've got it made, you don't have it made. So you'll check on your bees in January. Everything's good. Okay, my bees are alive. I don't have to order bees. You go back in 3 weeks later, and every single bee that you have is dead. So there's that fine line of whether or not to order packages. And again, that's always up to the orderee. Basically, you're going to have to decide, are my bees going to be able to make it through this next stretch, which is always the dead zone, the deadly part of the year, which is basically February and March. Is
the deadline for ordering bees.
Yeah, the dead line. Yeah, two words.
So what if it's May of 2000, I want to say 12 or 13, that first week, and we got a bad snowstorm, and I go out, and my bees are now dead. Can I contact you, like, I'm up a creek right now, I have no paddle, is there any way I can get some bees?
You and about 600 other people, yes, definitely contact us. Whether or not we can help you is a different story. Whether we can direct you to the right place, yes, definitely. There's always an option early in the year. Whether it be, you might just have to wait a little while. And again, you're missing that window that you really need to have. That whole April, March thing is a big key in that you have to figure out, am I going to miss this whole 2 months and wait and get a nuke or something from somebody else? Or am I going to just bite the bullet? I'm going to order a package of bees and I'm going to grow my colony or my apiary, whether I like it or not.
So if you order a package of bees and it turns out that your hive miraculously that you thought was dead isn't, can you add those bees to that hive, or they need to go into a different hive?
The dead colony or the live?
Or well, so you think it's dead, right?
Yep.
Or like you knock on it, you don't hear any buzzing, but then like 3 weeks later you see bees.
Oh yeah.
And you've already ordered. What do?
You now have 2 colonies of bees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just buy more equipment.
Sorry to say, no refunds in the package order.
Well,
bees.
no, I wasn't sure if you could add them to an existing colony, or if you just
it wouldn't help you very much
Okay.
to add that, because now you just basically paid for that. So you get a package of bees and you also get a brand new queen. So you would have to pick which queen to kill, which in my eyes hopefully would be the one that just made it through winter, which sucks to try to kill that queen. But now
Right.
you got a brand new young lady here versus your little MILF that you had for a little while. So
Well, so that happens. I now have 2 colonies of bees. Is there a minimum distance I should keep them apart from one another? Or is it, we're in a studio, it's just not very big. I could have one on that end. I could have one over on this end. And they're like, well,
We're
here's
not
the
putting
Smiths
bees
and
in the
here's the
studio,
Jones. You say that? Well, we had a cricket. Let's just bring back the bees.
yeah, I can pop an observation hive right through that wall right there, and we can have bees sitting in here all day long.
the squeaking was, or the cricketing
Well,
was enough.
do they kind of adjust, like, well, there's a hive over here. We're not going to screw with them too much. And there's this hive over here. Will they kind of, I guess,
Are they
get
mingle?
along?
Are
Yeah,
they
yeah.
simpatico?
Yeah. No, typically, I mean, you just got to figure your involvement in this. Do you want to have bees at 2 different locations, or do you want to have bees at one end of the yard versus the other end? Typically, you run your hives right next to each other, so a couple feet apart. There's always different ways to do it, and again, back to the whole everybody has an answer, and I run mine about 1.5 feet, 2 feet apart from each other. Commercial guys stack four colonies on a pallet, all facing each direction. So I mean, there's no written rule on how far you should have them apart, but you give them a little bit of space so you the beekeeper can work your bees.
And we've talked about that. I mean, bees fly up to several miles.
Correct.
And you know, we were talking about transportation. If you wanted to go and drop it off in an orchard, you know, they can do a couple loops around their hive and fly off and find their home again.
Yep.
So I mean, they'll kind of keep to them to the right in that case.
Yep. They'll go right back to their home again. Yep.
You mentioned, you know, go and follow a beekeeper. You know, look on forums. I've had a couple hop farmers. Eric from not Stonehill. One in St. Croix Falls.
St. Croix Valley.
St. Croix Valley Hops, and John from Stonehill Hop Farms. And they are part of the Minnesota Hop Growers Association. Is there anything like that around here that people can go either be a member of, or is there any recommended forums or social media sites that they can go and either bounce ideas off of or hear stuff from experience?
Yes, there's bee clubs everywhere. There's Wisconsin still. I mean, there's probably one bee club per city minimum, if not couple. So yes, it is a great thing to do. Join a bee club. You know, it's attendance. Usually bee clubs meet once a month, and it's user priority. Whatever's going on at that time.
Prerogative?
No.
Proprietary.
There we go. To what's going on. Wow.
You've been down here way too long.
Yeah, definitely. Is it hot in here? Am I just dumb?
Gonna blame the alcohol.
So, what's going on in the club meet and they talk about what's going on, what you need to do for and we have a blog on Nature's Nectar site, what to do with my bees this week. And we post a blog every day, if not every other day, on what you're supposed to do with your bees.
So when winter hits, are you just like, let them sleep?
Yeah.
For like 4 weeks in a row?
It's more along the lines of...
Look, don't touch.
Yeah. Get your equipment ready for next year. Start making this type of honey.
So, hey, we're running a sale on this way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Now, what about the U of M? They just I couldn't find an exact date, but it sounds like fairly recently they started the U of M Bee Lab course. It's titled Beekeeping Northern Climates Year 1, which listeners can find at blab.umn.edu. Have you attended that class before? You said you work with them.
Yep, I've attended this first year class twice and the second year class 3 times. So. Excellent
Couldn't pass
course.
the first one, or
yeah. Thank God there wasn't a test, because that would look pretty bad if the owner of Nature's Nectar couldn't pass a bee test. Yeah. Great course. It is literally the best course. I tell people to go to it all the time. Again, another thing that you have to be prepared on, because it sells out lightning fast. And the last couple of years, they've actually done a second first year course class, so people can take, and it's I mean, it is the fastest 8-hour class that you've ever sat down in, and they give you lunch and breakfast, and there's lots of breaks and everything.
I was just looking at today's August 4th of 2019, and I was looking at, I think it's like $130, $150, something like that, and like lunch is included, here's what to expect, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and it is, and when people say 8 hours, I am not sitting in a classroom for 8 hours. It is staggeringly fast. I mean, it is but next thing you know, you're looking up and we're like, oh, it's lunchtime already. Pretty soon it's time to go, and you're looking down at your notebook going, well, wait a minute, can we stay here for another 45 minutes and talk, because I have so many more
Is it just like
questions.
a crash course in beekeeping, or?
Yeah, pretty much. And the 2 top guys in their field, Marla and Gary, are usually the speakers.
That's the name that so a listener actually piped in. I was talking to earlier. They listened to the first episode. They mentioned Gary
Reuter.
Yes.
Yep.
They gave a quick beekeeper into wealth and knowledge, respect, and blah blah.
So
somewhere in here, they
not only the knowledge. Do you get the opportunity to network with other either like new beekeepers or existing beekeepers?
Typically, the entire class is brand new beekeepers, and outside the class, we have a information booth set up, and we have. All our information as far as getting your packaged bees, because again, you're taking this class in the winter, and right behind that is when the bees are coming. So it's a great course, not only for Nature's Nectar, but for everybody that takes it, because there's other vendors there. They give you the U of M gives you a gigantic book, two different books on how to beekeep for dummies, pretty much. And it's just a dynamite class. I highly, highly recommend it.
So, I mean, I've taken now year 1 and year 2. Is there at a point where, like, I don't need to do this anymore? Or is it a continuing education kind of hobby?
Yeah, and that's kind of why I took it more than once, just because I might have missed something that 10-year beekeeper plus as might have missed. And it's funny when I go, I mean, here I am kicking as much knowledge out as I can to my customers, and I'm taking a first-year beekeeper class for the third time, and it's so much information. It's great.
Have you seen the information that you're receiving during the class evolve over the years? Like,
oh, definitely.
Are there new techniques
Yep.
and stuff like that?
Yeah, especially
so it's more of like continuing education versus
correct. Yep. Yeah. I mean, would you take it 4 times? Probably not. But
would you take it? Would you take it another time in a few years?
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was getting at. Yeah, definitely hit it up again, because obviously with everything's evolving, changing. We might, in 3 years from now, we might have the golden ticket to these mites, how to get rid of them, and of course that class is going to broadcast that as much as they possibly can. So,
aside from the class, I mean, is there like the Facebook group to go to, or the website outside of Nature's Nectar?
Hobby beekeepers, yeah. There's a bunch of websites. There's a bunch of Facebook pages for sure. And again, they're always linked to some club of some sort. So,
and of course, with the internet, there's always that keyboard warrior, the person that knows more than anybody else.
Oh yeah.
As a first year beekeeper, is there any like keywords, red flags that can pop up that I know? Okay, they're kind of talking out their ass, but this guy over here kind of seems they have a little bit more of a handle on it.
Right, and that's again, we'll go back to, where are they talking from? Are they in Minnesota, or are they in Texas? Because again, you're following something that may not have anything to do with where you live. And I can't stress this enough. When you hear a southern twang on there, it's time to change the channel, because it's most likely not viable or not usable in where you're at in northern climates.
You need to hear at least one
Yeah. If you can get somebody on there from Canada, I'd probably follow him religiously. Because if you can keep a bee alive in Canada, you got something. You got an ace up your sleeve somewhere.
I mean, even in southern parts of Canada, do they have a fairly large beekeeping programs?
I'm pretty sure all over the country there's solid beekeeping clubs and programs.
Once you get that ass end of Ontario, you're probably not keeping bees up there.
Right.
But.
Well, I mean, there's a group in Iceland, so and Iceland's got a handle on it. I mean, they have basically a mite-free community up there, because nothing's allowed in and out. I mean, everything has to be inspected, everything has to be radiated. I mean, it's quite the program up there, and if you think you have a short growing time in Wisconsin or Minnesota, can you imagine what Iceland's like? And don't quote
3 weeks, and then everything's just like, all right, well, we have the volcano here, so
right. Yeah, and go buy a jar of honey in Iceland once. You think the price is bad at the farmer's market? Try paying.
I had to mortgage my house for a second time to get this jar of honey.
Yeah, talking about $60-something an ounce in Iceland.
Holy cow. So. Well, last time we were on, we were talking about the different flavors of honey, and Casey, you brought up as a home brewer.
As a home brewer,
orange blossom.
Orange blossom is kind of like the big one that we can always find as.
And I kind of wrote that off. I'm like, how the hell is honey going to taste like an orange blah blah? Well, I just got honey from my aunt's brother. He had 25 5-gallon buckets full of honey. He's like, just take it. So she brought me a big giant mason jar, and I tried it for the first time. I'm like, my God, this tastes like freaking orange zest, blossomy awesomeness.
Yeah. You have clover honey, you have wildflower honey, you have buckwheat honey, which, I do have a handle on buckwheat honey, and buckwheat honey is basically, I like to call it old school honey, because basically back in the day, I get a ton of customers that come up to me, and they're older customers, and they immediately see that honey, and they're like, that's the honey I grew up with. Not this nice golden yellow honey, but this dark black molasses looking stuff. and they buy it instantly because it's that back in the day, buckwheat was a stable crop, and that's what everybody planted, and now it's not used at all hardly anymore, and it's really tough to get that buckwheat. But yeah, definitely a different flavor. When we sell it at the market, I basically make people try it before they buy it type of thing, because it's a 50-50, and if you're the 50% that likes it, it's not it's passionately love this bottle of honey, because it is something different. Yeah.
Do you get many, home brewers, and with the craft beer boom, do you get many people coming to you looking, hey, I want to buy your honey, but do you have stuff for home brewing, or can I just find you at the farmer's market, and take that home and start brewing with it?
Yeah, definitely not at the farmer's market, because by the pound at the farmer's market probably wouldn't be very viable.
So find them at the farmer's market, and
then talk to me behind the farmer's market scene.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Pay those farmer market prices.
Yeah, right. Yeah, please do. Yeah, I'll be retiring early, and Gordon will be taking over the business.
Fantastic.
Yeah. No, we sell bulk honey. Yes, so we sell it by basically the 55-gallon drum.
Do you have like an A grade, B grade, like the A grade that you sell, or no?
Nope.
Okay.
We're all top notch.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have B grade honey, and B grade honey is typically a mixed honey, or again back to the whole corn syrup thing. You kind of, if you're doing home brew, I guess I'm not much of a home brew type of guy, so I don't know what kind of effect that would have on your final product as far as quality. But in my eyes, I guess if you're gonna brew something and drink all of it, I would probably want to know where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, my parents just came home with some actual honeycomb itself, and
Yeah.
I cut off a little piece and tried. I'm like, ooh, this is kind of tasty.
Oh yeah.
Wonder if I could dry hop kind of style with this.
No, you're just adding simple sugar to it. All you're gonna do is thin your beer. You're not gonna get
Why
any
did this guy
flavor.
step on my dreams like that?
I'm not stepping on them. I'm letting you know what will happen.
He's putting slight pressure on your throat.
Well, Tom, now that you're not just online, but also online, where can people find you if they want to get in touch and start ordering come this winter?
NaturesNectarOnline.com. We have website, we have email, we have a phone number. Call, come into the shop anytime you want to talk to. That's kind of our MO, is basically helping people with beekeeping, and check our Facebook page out for sure. Sign up for that. We're always doing giveaways, hives, theater tickets. And again, right back to that information network, it's all people from your area, most likely, if you join the page, and you get answers right there on Facebook, and you can converse with other people and ask questions.
I saw somebody post a quick question on your public forum on Facebook, and I think it, like, the little tag underneath it was like 1 hour later you responded.
Yep. Yeah, I try to get to it as fast as I can. I mean, obviously, when we get into that busy season and we start taking package B orders, I got 4,800 packages to sell, so I might take a little longer than an hour to respond, but I try to be there. Definitely. I'm out doing Fleet Farm. That's all I care about.
So, what is your social media handles for people that want to look on there?
So we have naturesnectaronline.com. That's our email address and our storefront. And then we have Natures Nectar LLC on Facebook. And we also have Natures Nectar blog site.
Perfect. And for anyone that's looking to get into beekeeping going into this next season, I mean, is there any advice that you'd offer them?
Order your bees in January. That's the number one advice. Other than that, just pick a mentor, pick somebody to follow. If you want to go it alone, it's definitely a good thing. Give me a call. I'll give you my advice and my pitch on what I think how you should do it. Again, this is not Bible. This is just the way that I do it, and it's perfectly fine to follow anybody you like, but just kind of stick with one way to do it. Try not to go off on too many different paths or trinkets or gimmicks and stuff like that.
Well, thank you again, Tom, for coming down to the studio. I really appreciate it. And thank you for everyone tuning into this episode. Make sure to stay up to date with future guests and episodes by following on the show on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Vero, all at Rules of the Arena Podcast. Make sure to follow the show on Twitch, where you can tune into the show and join the conversations. Just head over to twitch.tv/Rules of the Arena. You can also find this episode and all others on blindninjastudios.com/ROA, Also available for download and streaming on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, and CastBox. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel where you can watch the live stream recordings of previous episodes. And if you'd like to support the show, there are a couple of ways you can help out. Please leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also support the show directly by going to patreon.com/Rules of the Arena podcast. I have a couple of ways you can help out there. If you'd like to get a hold of me or be on the show, please shoot me an email to roapodcastinfo@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out my newest show called No Story Left Behind. It's a podcast featuring veterans telling the stories of their careers in the military. Thanks again, folks, and we will catch you next time.